Welcome to the show. You know what it is? It's Come On Ref. Today is Wednesday, February 15th. We're going to talk a little, it's a post-Valentine's Day, post-Super Bowl hangover extravaganza. We won't get into the Super Bowl too much. You can check out the podcast. Aidan and I discussed pretty much everything at length on the podcast regarding Super Bowl 57. But we do want to get to the Cavs and Sixers. Big game tonight. Playoff seeding implications all over the place. And Aidan and I are going to talk about, some of our predictions on maybe the too deep, just maybe the starting depth chart for Ohio State football coming in the fall. Aidan, how you doing today, man?
It's good, Chad. I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm good. It's Wednesday. It's a show day. Yeah. I love this, man.
Oh yeah, it's the best part of your week, baby.
Absolutely. I get to come on here and talk sports with you, man.
Hey, nothing better.
Nothing better. What'd you think of the Super Bowl? I mean, obviously we talked about it on the podcast. I kind of know what you thought, but if we got some viewers that don't know about the
great
podcast,
game, great game. Not questionable call because I do think it was holding at the end of the game. Yeah. But it's always do you want to call it there? Do you not want to call it there? Me personally, I want to call it there. You let the boys play at that point, but great game between two great quarterbacks.
Yeah,
that turned out to be one of the best I've watched in recent memory. So, what do you think?
Same. I thought the quarterback play was exceptional. I mean, you had two kind of different styles going at it. I mean, Jalen Hurts he was almost 100% of the Eagles' offense, and when you say that, you think about, okay, the quarterback's 100% of the offense in the Super Bowl. Maybe it didn't go well, but they scored 35 points. Yep. And a lot of people would say that, defensively, I mean, they probably should have won the game. I mean, something that I didn't mention on the podcast that's been kind of bugging me was late in the game, that line drive punt, obviously the huge return back inside the 10. That was a huge turning point. And I know people want to talk about the defensive holding call, but really, I mean, if you wanted to probably, make the game hinge on one play, it might have been that punt and that punt return.
Yeah,
I think that completely changed the situation.
Yeah, Gannon making no adjustments defensively to go away from his 4-man pressure, and they weren't creating pressure. They had 0 sacks.
Yeah.
You have a very good secondary that have all-pro guys on the back end at corner with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who was leading the league in picks before he got hurt. Yeah. So I think you got to take some chances because you weren't stopping them anyway. What's the difference if you take some chances blitzing and don't stop them again? At least you tried something different. But I think staying to your guns in a game where Kansas City Chiefs didn't stay to their guns. They tried different things. They sent a jet motion almost to the center and then took it back because of corner's eye disciplines. I mean, they made adjustments after halftime to go away from some certain things. And it worked for them because it's the Super Bowl. You empty out the chamber.
Absolutely. I think that play is called, what did they say it was called? Corn dog?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he scored a couple touchdowns on that play too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts was amazing. I thought Mahomes, obviously battling through some pain. Again, he got the foot caught under him, and you thought, okay, this is it. You know what I mean? I'm just so used to seeing Patrick Mahomes grimace on the sidelines. Maybe we should just, not put any stock into that. It doesn't seem to really change his level of play. But I thought, man, he broke his foot, or something it's already weak. The joint's already weak. I thought something happened to him there. I'm truly glad that, it wasn't a serious injury. He was obviously able to come back and get in there and battle. But yeah, for a team, like you said, a team that leads the galaxy in sacks. I mean, it was surprising, with a hobbled quarterback. I mean, they couldn't get it. They just couldn't get there, and that makes it tough. I mean, you let Mahomes sit back and even just a couple of seconds, he's very dangerous. He seems to always make the right decision. So
too much time.
Yeah. Too much time, and maybe not enough time because I told you, when we talked about it, I thought it was going to come down to who had the ball last. And I guess technically it did and it didn't. I mean, the Eagles got the ball back with 8 seconds, but that's not enough time to do anything. Maybe with Mahomes, 8 seconds and a couple of timeouts was enough to do some stuff. But
there's only one.
Yeah, I would never count him out. But yeah, I thought it was a good game at least. I mean, we did get that. I don't know. Like you said, I just was really surprised that the Eagles couldn't get to Mahomes. I thought that was going to be, one of the factors of the game. I thought Mahomes might be hobbled, maybe, not able to get out of the pocket. Right. I thought he might get eaten alive back there, but the Eagles couldn't get to him.
Couldn't do anything with him. So
just couldn't do it.
Hard way to go out when you have the number one defense and you can't do what you've done all year.
Yeah, and I know the tendency is there to say, well, the Eagles will be back, but I mean, they just lost both coordinators.
It's hard to get back to the Super Bowl in the first
It's
place.
hard. It's so hard, and there's so much parity in the NFL. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that being a Browns fan,
Right.
because you look at the Browns, and I mean, unfortunately, they're worlds away from, or they feel worlds away from those two teams.
I
On
agree.
Sunday. I don't know. And let's just to get back to our old faithful topic. I mean,
Yeah.
is there any way? Let's just say, as a Browns fan, I'm not even going to talk about what they have to do to get there because it seems to be a mystery anymore.
Right.
Let's just say you put the Browns on the field with either of those two teams. They play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, or they play the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Do the Browns compete?
No. It's a simple one, right? No.
Yeah.
What do they have that competes? They wouldn't have had the better quarterback.
No.
From what I've seen this year, I no way he would have been the best quarterback on the field in either of those games.
No, it's not close.
Secondary wise, we weren't good this year. We would have had multiple breakdowns in the secondary from what we've seen. We have one guy who can get to the passer. The rest of the guys are just average. We can't stop the run. How would we have stopped the Eagles?
I
we wouldn't
have any idea.
We wouldn't have.
And I can promise you the Eagles would have had sacks against the Browns. I can promise you that.
Yes. They could have picked on Jed Wills as much as they wanted to.
I mean, there's an open door right there right now. I'm not saying he can't get it fixed. I've said it to you before. Maybe a move back to right tackle would be best for him. Yeah, I just don't know.
It's just hard seeing that since they signed Conklin to an extension, right? But
right. And you don't have a true left tackle. I mean, you're not going to get one without a first-round pick. You're not going to get one. At least a guy who can go out there and make a difference. You can get a depth guy, but
I've heard stuff about them maybe trying Hudson at left tackle instead of Wills.
Okay. Would you move Wills inside then?
I think you move Wills to the bench.
Maybe.
I think that's where we're at right now. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's been bad. I've also, you also see the stuff where it seems like he's just got a terrible attitude.
Yeah.
Frustrated all the time, tweeting after the game on Twitter, which is they're people. They're gonna tweet stuff.
Sure.
But if you're gonna tweet and stuff, at least play better. You don't have much room to talk. We're not professional athletes, but
not at all.
But like, you'd love to see a guy tweet something and then the next week go out and ball, right?
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
He wasn't doing that. So we'll have to see what happens, man.
Yeah. Is it the time test? I mean, is it just is it lack of veteran leadership in the locker room? Is it? I mean, what is it?
I think so. Well, I think the biggest problem is this is including Nick Chubb for different reasons because he's not a vocal guy.
Not at all. No.
The best players aren't leaders. I don't think Myles Garrett is a leader. I think he, talks more than he walks when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Denzel's a quiet guy, doesn't really talk.
Yeah.
Batonio talks some, but he's not. He's a guard. That's hard for people to be led by a guard.
Yeah, that's typically not going to be the vocal leader of your team. I mean, whether it's even if you're specializing offense, defense. I mean, you typically want it to be your quarterback.
Yeah, and Coop is never going to be that vocal guy.
No.
And Watson, we don't know. We don't know if he can lead.
We have no idea.
After what happened, we don't know if he's a leader or not.
Yeah, you'd like your leader and your quarterback, to kind of exemplify, certain traits on and off the field, and is that who you want to identify as your vocal leader in the locker room right now? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know who that is.
I don't think so. But will they have a choice? Is the real question because what they're doing right now doesn't work.
No. 7 and 10 is not going to cut it.
Yeah, Myles Garrett being this dude who's a leader, but then takes plays off into the fourth quarter. That's not a leader. So for me, it comes down to leadership, and that starts at the top too. It starts with your head coach.
Yep.
You're bringing in an offensive coordinator, bring all this culture, and this. What about your head coach?
Yeah. Yeah. Why do you bring in an assistant? And he's a coordinator. I get it. He's in charge of the defense. But you want your head coach to have a little more of an impact on maybe the attitude of your team in a positive way. I mean, it's almost as if, you look at Kevin Stefanski, and he's very laid back on the sidelines. There's not a lot of emotion there, and that's fine. I mean, that's great. But I can't. It also, I can't imagine how he is in the locker room, because that team looks very laid back, and I mean, there's no urgency. There's no, they don't play with any real sense of, we've got to win today. We got to win now. We got to get this. Let's execute on every play. They just sort of go out there with. I mean, I don't know. They sort of emulate what he feels like to me on the sidelines. I mean, they just kind of go out and,
I don't think he was a great quarterback at all. But at least Baker was fiery, so they kind of counteracted each other.
Yeah.
Like if you saw the thing with the Eagles, like Hurts is a kind of laid back. Obviously, he's intense. The stuff he says is intense. He's a real leader. Like if you probably had the definition of a leader, Jalen Hurts might be next to that in the picture.
Yeah.
But you see Sirianni, he's more of a talker. He's a fiery guy.
Absolutely.
And if you've seen the video of him like pointing at the Chiefs, Hurts taking his arm down, like chill out, man. Like,
right.
You got to have a balance there, and there's no balance right now. I feel like everybody's just laid back.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because it's under such a microscope. I mean, the head coach and quarterback relationship here has been, the talk of the town, really, for how many years now? I mean, 20 years. We've looked so closely at how the head coach and the quarterback work together, and it typically doesn't go well. I don't know that, maybe it'll be different with Stefanski and Watson. I don't know. I hate to predict, because it's just whatever you think the Browns are going to do, or whatever you think is going to happen with the Browns.
Right.
I can't even say it's almost the opposite. It's just something completely different. They never really do what you expect. So it's hard to say. Can it work? Right. Sure. Anything can work. Will it work? I don't know. I think that's what we're concerned about as Browns fans. Will it work? And they've got a pretty small window. It doesn't seem like it, because you've got a quarterback that's, guaranteed here for however many years, but you're also paying that guy $50 million a year. And they're going to roll over some cap room, this year into next year. And I get that. They have a little bit of, nobody's better than Andrew Berry at creating that financial, kind of freedom and creativity.
Right.
But you can only be so creative when guys don't necessarily want to sign here.
Yeah, exactly. There's a limit to what you can do when you don't get people. So
I think fans forget that sometimes. Well, just go out and sign these 5 guys.
Yeah.
And then we're fine. We win the Super Bowl. Well, those 5 guys have to want to come to Cleveland. You have to remember they have to sign the contract. You don't just. I've said it before. It's not like, you've seen old school. They don't just roll up in a van and put a hood over it, and now you play for the Browns. Like, that's not how that works. So.
That's why you're supposed to be a team that builds through the draft. You're a small market team. You're supposed to build through the draft.
Truly, yeah.
But, I mean, maybe they could take a page out of the book of the other 2 franchises in Cleveland, but I guess they won't.
I think when you're the Browns, you want to find, ideally, 2 fringe starters and 3 or 4 guys that can provide some depth in the draft. And I mean, sometimes we go through a draft, 7 or 8 guys, and 1 or 2 end up on the roster.
Yeah, your second round pick has to damn near be a starter.
Yeah. I would say even the 3rd round pick would need to be a starter. I mean, at the very least, a major contributor on special teams and a rotation guy on defense or something. I mean, you've got to get some production out of these 3rd round picks, because that's all they have.
Yeah.
I mean, going forward, they don't have many they're not going to have many 1st round picks. So you've got to do something. You got to be creative. I think Barry can do it. I think they have to find the right marriage of analytics and football, though. I think maybe sometimes it feels like it's too analytic driven.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't draft numbers, because numbers don't really equate to, a guy's heart on the field. I think that sometimes that just makes the difference,
Not at all.
Because I don't think Jalen Hurts would have been a big analytics, I don't think he would have been the winner in the analytics draft at all.
No.
But who has bigger heart?
Yeah. Analytics probably would have said that was a bad pick in the 2nd round for the Eagles.
Right. Well, that's enough about football right now. We've spent plenty of time on we talked about the Super Bowl on the podcast. Please go check that out if you want to hear more. Right now, I want to talk about the Cavs. They play the Sixers tonight. I have a couple of questions. Are the Cavs a legitimate 3rd seed in the East? We're going to find out maybe tonight. I know the regular season's different from the playoffs.
Right.
But if Embiid doesn't play tonight, does that change? First of all, do you think he's going to play? Will he play tonight?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's a measuring stick game, as some would call it. I think the Sixers are going to come out and try to punch the Cavs in the mouth.
Hmm.
They're at home. You're going to see, if the Cavs can respond or not. It's going
Yeah,
to be more of a playoff atmosphere tonight than it usually is.
sure,
So I think he'll play.
sure.
Um, but we'll see what happens.
And you got to think about too. Philadelphia fans are going to be like rabid, looking for some kind of hope. I mean, some kind of a big win. They just maybe came up a
Oh,
little bit short in the Super Bowl, so they've got that feeling still. So
yeah.
they may be a little extra Philly tonight.
No doubt.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the Sixers have to hit shots. I think against the Rockets they struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
Embiid kind of joked after the game that he needs to be having, he needs to be at 10 assists a game. Well, first of all, that's frightening. He's leading the league in scoring with Luka. If he's also getting 10 assists a game, maybe the Sixers just don't lose again. But he does a good job. Obviously, he's going to draw a bunch of double teams. He's been finding the open guy. He does a decent job at that.
Right.
And if they knock down their shots, they're clearly very dangerous. But they've struggled at times. I mean, they're a streaky team.
They are.
Just like anybody else. And they don't even necessarily shoot the three. I mean, they're middle of the road when it comes to 3-point attempts. It's just about kind of spreading the floor and just using Embiid as a
right
as a hole opener, really.
Yeah, you have Embiid, you have Harden.
Mm-hmm.
That 2-man game is dangerous.
Oh yeah.
The Cavs are a game back of the Sixers right now.
Yeah.
But if they win this game, they'll have the tiebreaker for the season.
Yeah.
Like you said, are the Cavs a legitimate 3 seed? I think so.
Yeah,
they could be. They have one of the easiest schedules left in the NBA for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that helps.
I think they could end up with easily the 3rd seed. I think the top 2 teams, the Bucks and the Celtics, are in a league of their own, kind of. I think they're the best 2 teams in the NBA at the moment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Nuggets in 3rd, probably. I'd say.
I can't remember the last time the Bucks have lost. I don't.
Yeah, they're on an 11 game win streak, I believe, right now.
I think it's 10 or 11. Yeah, they look so tough right now.
I don't bet against the best player in any league, and Giannis is the best player in the NBA.
Yep.
So I wouldn't go away from that. But a 3rd seed in the East that can take the Bucks or the Sixers to 6 or 7 games, I think that would be a very successful season.
Yeah,
so,
I do too.
And the 3rd seed in the East is the difference between playing, right? By the end of the season, I think Miami will be the 5 seed. So being the 3rd seed in the East is the difference between playing the Nets or somebody like the Knicks now, who is should be a 5-game series. You're the more talented, better team.
Yeah.
And then if you're the 4 seed, you play Miami Heat with Jimmy Butler, who's an all-time playoff performer, Bam Adebayo, Eric Spoelstra. A team that's super good in the playoffs that nobody wants to see in the playoffs because you could lose that first-round series.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of guys there that have done some things in the playoffs, like you said.
Yeah, I think getting the 3rd seed is huge.
Yeah.
From that perspective, from getting out of the first round.
I agree, and I think that perspective-wise, I think there's a big difference between the top 4 teams in the East and the rest of the East. And I think, you'd almost be a little bit disappointed as a Cavs fan if they don't end up in that top 4 somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
They're young. They're definitely. I think they're definitely going to finish. At least as a 4 seed.
Right.
But again, we talked about it. The difference between 4 and 5. It's a huge difference right now, I think.
Right.
And I think you'd be a little bit disappointed if they again, kind of fizzle because they're healthy right now. I mean, obviously there's always injury concerns because it's the NBA, it's professional basketball. Guys are going to get hurt. I mean, but they really don't have an injury to speak of right now. They're pretty healthy. They got Danny Green back. I think that's a good roster piece that helps. I mean,
I agree.
He's not going to give you 40 minutes a night, but he shoots 40% from the 3-point line. And I think he can play a little defense. I mean, he's obviously not as young as he once was. We're all getting older every day, but I think that's a good piece for them. And without losing anything, really, I thought that was a good. It helps. It's a good step toward getting that 3 seed.
Yeah, I completely agree, and for multiple reasons. First, a lot of playoff experience, right? 3-time champ.
Yeah.
A lot of playoff series he's played in.
Yep.
He shoots 40% from 3 in the playoffs. 39% from 3 in the playoffs. 40% in the regular season.
Yeah.
Outside of Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland, there's nobody that would garner that much respect as a shooter.
Yeah.
On the Cavs, period. You see, even the good shooters on the team get left a lot because they don't have the respect of a lot of teams. You haven't done it long enough.
Sure.
And as a positional defender, I'm not saying he is what he once was as a defender. Danny Green has an all NBA defensive team under his belt. He's not that guy anymore. but he
No.
knows where to be. He knows how to stay in front of most guys.
Yep.
So I think getting him is a huge addition for us from just an experience standpoint.
Yeah.
And the guy that's a 3-time champ that's been in these situations before that can help out the young guys, keep them calm. Darius is about to see his first playoff action.
Yeah.
He's an all-star, but this is going to be his first 7-game series.
Right.
There's going to be a moment when he's like, oh, shoot, this is a little different.
Yeah.
He's going to get too hyped up, maybe try to force some things. And, Donovan, Danny, Kevin Love, Ricky can all calm him down.
Yes.
So you need that type of stuff. You need that type of teammate. So I think he'll be a great addition, especially late games. Maybe have him in the corner so the court's more spread out for DG and Don to work. So we'll see what happens, man.
Yeah, anytime you can create space, if you've got a couple of scorers, you can do some damage.
Right.
And I think it's something that you said. It kind of sparked a thought with me. I mean, yeah, he's not what he once was. Maybe he's lost a step, half a step, whatever it is. But sometimes with that veteran experience, I mean, like you said, all NBA defensive. I don't really. I guess don't discount what that experience can do. You know what I mean? That can add that half a step. When he's like that wily veteran. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
He just kind of, when you know the game in and out like that, I think that helps.
Yeah, knows the tricks of the trade.
Exactly. That can help you get a half a step back.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I can find a way to do that. I need a half a step back.
Hey, happens to the best of
us. What else? I mean, going forward, I mean, let's talk. I mean, how deep do you see the Cavs going in the playoffs? I mean, they're obviously going to make the playoffs. We know that. We don't have to say if they make the playoffs. We know they're in. They're going to be in.
Coming up after this game is All-Star break, so you're gonna have time to get any bumps and bruises are gonna, pretty much go away.
Yeah.
Gonna go down the home stretch with a healthy team.
Yeah.
Knock
on wood, right?
But I think a successful season for the Cavs, you got to win round one. You got to win your first series. Whether that be the Heat or the Knicks or the Nets, right? You have to win that series. You're gonna have home court advantage. You're gonna be the home team. Odds are probably gonna be in your favor.
Yeah.
From a sports betting perspective, and then you run into Boston or Milwaukee, and at that point I think we're a year away from that point of really truly beating that team, right? Beating one of those teams.
How many games do you think that series goes if they run in, whether it's Boston or Milwaukee? I mean, I think there's similar outcomes for the Cavs, unfortunately. But what do you think? I mean, how many games?
I think 6,
yeah.
Probably. I think 6-game series would probably be, where we take it.
Yeah.
The highest ceiling for us is, I don't see us getting swept most likely.
Yeah.
I see us getting one game out of it because we're so good defensively.
Yeah.
You can squeak out a game. Donovan gets hot or Darius gets hot. You squeak out a game, right?
Yeah, right.
But I think you can win probably both at home. I think it's going to get a lot harder to beat Milwaukee in 6 games when Jay Crowder starts getting acclimated.
Yeah.
And, Joe Ingles is getting his feet back under him, especially Chris Middleton. The important one is getting his feet back under him with Drew Holiday, with Giannis. So the closing lineups could be Drew, Middleton, Ingles, Crowder, and Giannis. I mean, spread floor for Giannis, and then great defense on the other end. So, I think that's the best team in the league right now if Giannis is healthy.
Yeah, that sounds like 5 games. I don't mean to disparage the Cavs, but that's trouble.
But yeah, I think a second round exit is a successful season this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think with just the lack of experience, well, you've got some experience, but they're still a really youthful team. And playing together, you know what I mean? They just don't have a ton of experience together. I think you give them a whole season, like you said, a win in the first round, the experience of playing a team like the Celtics or the Bucks, that can only make you better. And I think if they match up with a team like you said, like Miami in the first round, if they get by a team like Miami, rather, excuse me, I think that maybe that starts to roll a little bit of confidence. And I'm not saying that they're going to take the Bucks and the Celtics down, but maybe that series rolls 6 games, and I think in a series like that you're going to have 2 or 3 close games, and you're going to have 2 blowouts. Let's be honest. I mean, the Cavs are young enough and inexperienced enough. They're probably going to be on the wrong end of those 2 blowouts.
Right.
So it's really what they do in the close games. I mean, they're going to have to stay close and down the stretch hit shots and all the things you have to do to win a basketball game, man. I mean,
Right.
but it's easier said than done sometimes. When you haven't played together, you have a little bit of youth on the team. We'll see what happens. I don't think anybody would be disappointed by a win in the first round and you get limited by the Bucks and they go on to win the title or whatever. I mean, no one's going to have anything negative to say about that, right?
Yeah, I think that would be a great season. You have the pessimistic Cavs fans who are always going to be negative, right?
Of course.
But for the most part, for the majority, I think it would be a great season. I mean, seeing a young team get a guy top 4 seed right away, make the playoffs, win a series, couldn't be happier. Knowing going into next year that Darius is going to be a year older with playoff experience now. Evan Mobley is going to get more physical development, be a year older with experience now. So I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, Mobley's development, I feel like just in the past maybe 3 or 4 weeks has really started to he's really trending upward, I think.
Yeah, the last month I'm pretty sure he's averaging 19 and 9. So
you'll take that.
Yeah, those are big time numbers.
Absolutely. So Cavs Sixers tonight. That's on TNT, right?
ESPN.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was on TNT or ESPN. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so that's on ESPN. Let me check the game out. I don't know if you want to come back here and comment. Maybe we're totally wrong. Maybe the Cavs just blow the Sixers out tonight. You know what I mean?
That'd be a good way to be wrong.
I'll take it. Yeah, maybe they look like the favorites in the East. I doubt it, but that's okay, man. They're a tough team. Going forward, we're going to see what happens. But I am excited because pitchers and catchers reported yesterday. There's really not a whole lot to talk about with baseball, but I'm really, really excited that we're getting close. We're weeks away, you know what I mean, from actually being able to talk about meaningful baseball. And that's fun for me. But in the meantime, let's go even further out. Let's talk about our Buckeyes, man. What do you think the Buckeyes are going to look like next fall?
We're almost spring football time.
Almost, yeah. We can. I never watch the spring game anymore. Do you ever watch the spring game though?
I usually tune in.
Yeah,
I like to see the young guys.
I do too. But sometimes it's so, I don't know. It's so non-competitive that I'm like, okay, you rolled out a first-year quarterback with no rush, and okay, he went 10 of 12 for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's promising. It's funny. He could throw the ball. I would hope he could throw the ball. He's got a Division I scholarship at Ohio State. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes it gets a little skewed for me. I get my hopes up too much sometimes when I watch those big numbers happen in the spring game. So maybe I inadvertently, ignore that. But what does this team look like in the fall? We've got some question marks here. The offensive line, the whole offensive line is a giant question mark. And that's not a size joke. I mean, they're big guys, but we don't even know who. I don't know who's playing there.
Well,
what do you want to start? You want to start with offense or defense? What do you want to do? Because there are question marks everywhere. Okay, do it. I want to hear what you think.
I have obviously the biggest storyline is the quarterback battle.
Yeah.
That's ensuing. That's going to be ensuing, right?
Yeah. Or is it? Because you've got so many weapons.
Right.
I mean, if you've got a serviceable guy there, serviceable, easy for me to say. If you've got a guy who's, able to be serviced, I don't know how to say that without stumbling over it. But if you've got a guy back there that could just make the throws and make some reads, as long as you can protect him, I think they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I mean, that's obviously it's a quarterback sport. There's no doubt. But I'll let you get back to it.
I think
got excited.
The Georgia game kind of showed you need a bit more of a playmaker in the biggest games, right?
Yeah.
I want to predict Devin Brown to be the starter.
Yeah.
I think it'll end up being Kyle McCord actually, but I think Devin Brown could still have a chance to start this year. I think it's definitely possible.
I think so too.
Pretty easy. Trey Henderson or Mayan Williams. They'll split, right?
Yeah.
And you'll have Dallin Hayden back there as a backup.
Yep.
Wide receivers pretty easy. Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Ibuka, and Julian Fleming are the starters.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I mean, barring injury, that's it. Those three are the guys. I mean, that's it.
Tight end, Cade Stover is the guy.
Yep.
Left tackle. So I was listening to a lot of, interviews and stuff. I'm hearing a lot of Josh Fryer actually playing left tackle instead of right tackle this year.
Okay.
I think Josh will start at left tackle. Donovan Jackson's back at left guard.
Yeah.
They want to keep Donovan Jackson and Matthew Jones at the guard positions this year since Matthew Jones returned.
Yep.
So, and then I think Carson Hinsman, second-year player, top 250 recruit guy.
Yeah.
He got mentioned as a center when nobody really been talking about him. Coach Dave just mentioned him, so
Yeah.
I'll give him the nod. And then right tackle, I think I'm gonna go Tegra Shabola.
Okay.
Top, he was a 104 recruit in his class, number 10
Yeah.
tackle, 6'6", 330. They said he's like a wall to get past, so a
Yeah.
little bit smaller than DeJuan Jones, but DeJuan Jones type right tackle.
Yeah.
Right.
Ton of eligibility left too. He's a redshirt freshman. I mean, that's.
What about you, Jeff? What you got?
I mean, I don't think there's any question on the wide receivers. Like you said, I think it's Harrison, Fleming, and Igbuka. There's no question there. I mean, maybe you see Xavier Johnson get some run. I mean, they're going to go with some 4 or 5 wide receiver sets, so guys are going to see the field. But as far as your main starters, I mean, those are going to be the guys.
Yeah.
I've heard some things. I don't know. Zen Mikowski at left tackle. I've heard some rumblings. Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, there's a little less experience there than with Fryer, just a little,
Right.
obviously. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to. It's really hard to say on the offensive line. I think a lot of that comes down to things that we don't see as fans. You really earn your job on the offensive line. In the weight room and on just like I said, the things that we don't necessarily have access to. That's where it's going to all come down. But yeah, I've heard even some rumblings of Jacob James at center, which
he's out for the spring. So
yeah. So that's probably going to put him a little bit behind. I don't know. Quarterback is tough for me because I'm with you. I think Kyle McCord can obviously throw it. He was a 5-star prospect. There's no doubt there. He played with Harrison. So we know they have a connection. I think that helps him. I would say it's probably maybe 50-50 between McCord and Devin Brown, but that previous experience with Harrison maybe pushes, McCord up to 55-45, but then the playmaking ability of Devin Brown, maybe that brings it back down. So it's like 52-48, maybe Kyle McCord.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it's trending, but I do agree with you that they're in kind of a unique situation where it's like, maybe you pick one and go,
Right.
But it's so hard because you can't run a 2-quarterback system. It just doesn't work.
Never has worked.
No, it never has worked. It never will. I don't even what Florida did with Tebow, and that wasn't a 2-quarterback system back in the day. That was just, hey, let's run a battering ram in here, on 3rd and short, 4th and short, whatever. And Tebow just would go out and get a first down because he was, he was just that guy. That wasn't the same thing. You can't run you've got to have some continuity to your offense. You've got to have guys get into the groove, and it's hard to run a quarterback out there every quarter. And okay, now you go run the offense. You might get one possession, you might get 8 plays. You know what I mean, in an entire quarter. So how do you split that up? I mean, every other possession, that doesn't work either. I mean, because now you've got 2 guys, different dropbacks, different deliveries, different everything. That just doesn't work. So I don't know. You've got to pick one. I think we'll have to watch the spring game and just really see how they throw the ball. Yeah. It's going to be, how they read defenses too. I mean, that's going to be the biggest thing, just reacting to those unexpected things. I mean, McCord's got 1 start. It was against Akron,
Right.
And people like to highlight, well, McCord's got starting experience. Listen.
Not really.
Yeah, I don't mean to. I'm not disparaging, the Akron Zips at all. Their football program is what it is. It's just not on the same level as, Georgia or Notre Dame or.
One might have had tougher practices against the 2s and the 3s at Ohio State. Let's keep it frank.
Yeah. Honestly, and again, that's nothing against those kids at Akron. No. I mean, they're good football players. It's just Ohio State's a different.
It's a different story.
It's a completely
different. That's okay to say.
It is.
I like McCord. I don't think he's terrible. I also have to think of it as an upside thing, right? Like Kyle McCord, if he's good this year, he can just go.
Sure.
If Devin Brown's good this year, he'll be the quarterback for 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's an upside that you want, I think, with a quarterback. Obviously, if McCord doesn't win the job, he transfers out. Then Lincoln Keenholz is probably your backup, the freshman, who would get here in the summer. So that's tough. But you can deal with that. You can manage those things decently. If you have trust in Lincoln, you don't have to be too worried about Devin Brown, but it'll work out.
Yeah. Well, if McCord transfers, I think that puts him in a dangerous spot because then you've got really only Devin Brown on the roster that you quote unquote trust,
Yeah, I agree.
That puts him in a tough spot. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happens. I just
I
don't
don't.
know. I don't know what
But
to
here's
say.
my thing: if they you can't play it safe.
No,
If you think Devin Brown is the better quarterback, but you start McCord because Devin Brown will stay because he's the younger guy, I think that is the wrong move.
I think that is too. You play the best guy. Period.
Yeah. So don't play it safe. Play for the best.
Yeah.
And then you deal with the consequences. If Devin Brown, I'm not going to say that word, gets abducted by aliens, right,
Right.
so to speak, and
That could happen now recently. We don't know what's going on.
But then guess what? You get a 4-star quarterback that comes in as a freshman. Sure, he'll be wide eyed, but then he'll look over and say, "Oh, that's Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh, that's Emeka Ibuka. Oh, that's Julian." He'll be okay. He'll
That's
be
calm.
okay.
Yeah.
He'll be okay. You can play football. It's just a little different level, but you have different level receivers than the level that you're playing against, right? So
yeah, you've got 3 guys out there almost at any time, and you can even throw Cade Stover when he's healthy and when he's really focused. You've got 4 guys out there at any given time that can really just go win a one-on-one battle against almost anybody in the nation. So
no doubt about it.
That makes it easier.
Yeah, makes it a lot easier. What do you think about the defense?
The defense. My biggest question on the defense is
we're going base. We're not going no jack here. So
no jack. Okay. Well, my biggest question on the defense is probably, as I look at it, the defense. That's all encompassing. But yeah, I think it's going to be better with year two under Knowles.
Right.
I think I thought they showed improvement. I know a lot of fans are very impatient, and they want the number 1 defense in the country and 5 yards a game and 1.8 points a game and dominate. That's not going to happen anymore. I mean, you're never going to see a team, you're not going to see a team do what they did in the 80s and 90s defensively.
No doubt.
Teams are going to give up. You're going to have your games where you give up 30, 35, 40 points. I mean, even in the Super Bowl, it's not, it's not only in college. I mean, you saw 2 great defenses get together, and I mean, 73 points are scored total. I mean, it's the way football is.
On the biggest stages, teams are going to score.
Yeah, teams are going to score, and listen, you've got to be able to outscore them to a certain point, but you also have to have guys. No disrespect to Lathan Ransom, he fell down, but you can't give up 75, 80-yard touchdown passes on one play drives. I mean, that is an absolute killer in a game like that. You've got to have guys who are and again, I hate to pick on Ransom because he just tripped. He fell down. That happens. But it seems like, we get a lot of guys tripping and falling down because they're out of position or they're hustling to get to a spot because maybe they're a little bit late on their rotation or whatever. And those things I think you can fix. They're physical things that I think, again, they get better in year 2 with Knowles. But my biggest question, on a serious note, is always the defensive line, the interior defensive line. You're probably looking at, I don't know, I would guess some combination of Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams in there, on the inside.
Yeah, I'd say probably Mike Hall would be added in there too.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's going to be, you're going to have rotation guys. I mean, you're always going to play, ideally, I think 8 to 12 guys, on the defensive line at a place like Ohio State. You want guys who can go in and there's not a ton of drop off. So some of those guys are a little bit interchangeable, but I'm concerned with their ability to stop the run up the middle. And it's not just what Michigan did to them. I mean, they show that tendency a lot where that middle of the run defense just kind of goes away.
Right.
And whether that's, it's not always Eichenberg. I mean, Eichenberg had a great year last year. I mean, he was always around the ball. He had 1,000 tackles, but it's just that first line. Like when you let a running back, especially now, I mean, guys are, 6 foot, 240 pounds. I mean, you let them get into the second level. I mean, they're going to run wild on you. And Michigan doesn't have a guy that big, but they've got, obviously they've got some backs that can get there and do some damage. I mean, we've seen it the last couple of years. And for whatever reason, it seems like those, I don't know, we just can't get any penetration from the defensive line. There's no real quarterback pressure like there was. And I'm not saying you can't compare guys to the Bosa's and Chase Young. That's not fair.
Yeah, but I think JT has a chance this year. He flashed a lot last year.
Oh yeah, of the Penn State game.
Yeah, Tuimoloau, I think, first team All Big Ten last year. I think he should take a step up and be a first round pick. Yeah. The other side is what I'm concerned about, like defensive end wise.
Yeah.
Also, I think inside, before Mike Hall got hurt, he was kind of dominating inside to start the season. 4 sacks early on. was pretty much limited the rest of the year
Yeah.
on snaps and stuff. So Tyleek looked better later in the season, looked good against Georgia.
Yeah.
Hamilton, it just is a solid player. Second year player, Hero Canoe. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
Be a run plug guy.
Yeah.
You need a guy like that. So he's a second year guy. He's really just learning football though. He's from a different country, Germany, I believe. So
Right.
that might take some time, but he'll definitely play.
Definitely
Jay
makes it tougher.
McKenzie too. He's a developmental guy, so we'll see what happens. But I'm worried about two things. One, I need JT on the field as much as possible. I know you like to rotate Larry Johnson, but your best player's got to play.
Yeah.
JT is the best player maybe on the defense from a talent perspective.
Yeah.
He's got to play as much as possible. Second, I don't care where or when he plays. CJ Hicks is the most talented linebacker in the room. 6'4", 230, 225, in that range.
Yeah.
4'5" guy. He has to play somewhere.
Yep.
He has to play. If he's the most talented guy in the room, James Laurinaitis says he moves different than everybody else there. He has to play.
Yeah, I mean, you see it on his. Yeah, you can see it in his film. I mean, it's he's different, like you said.
Sonny Styles has to play.
Yeah.
Who's the other end? I bet it'd be Jack Sawyer to start the year at least.
Yeah, Caden Curry's there.
Caden Curry. I've heard some stuff about Kenyatta Jackson.
Yeah.
A national recruit from Florida. So we'll see what happens there. I have some questions about the secondary, but I want to see Sonny Styles play. I want to see him be a starter. Lathan's going to be a starter.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably guess the transfer from Syracuse, Jihad Carter.
Yeah.
Would be the starter in the slot, nickel. That's three interchangeable guys for the most part who can do a lot of different things.
Right.
Corner, I think, is going to be mostly a three-man rotation unless a guy like Jermaine Matthews breaks into it or Jair Brown breaks into it.
Yeah.
I think the transfer from Ole Miss, Davison Igmanoson, Denzel Burke, and Jordan Hancock for the most part.
Yeah.
They have some stuff to prove. I think Davison is going to be a good football player. Denzel Burke, as a freshman, was pretty good. Took a step back in year two. A lot of that I've heard is injury related, didn't get a lot of reps.
Yeah.
But he looked his best in the Georgia game. So we'll have to see. Need those guys to step up because we play them on the island a decent amount. Linebackers, I'm not too concerned about other than CJ Hicks has to see the field. But I think this defense has a chance to be really good. Your best players got to step up. Your most talented players have to play.
Absolutely.
Right? And one thing that you talked about, the Lathan Ransom trip. Mm-hmm. Lathan Ransom should never be lined up in the slot against the fastest player on the team. Right?
I didn't want to say. Yeah, I didn't want to. I was trying to find. I don't know. I'm careful about the way that I talk about these college kids, man, because they're kids.
No.
You know what I mean?
Lathan Ransom,
yeah, you're right. You're right. But you're 100% right.
Good high safety, good in the box, good tackler, right?
Good player, yeah, great player.
Against the quickest slot player on Georgia's football roster. Yeah. That is not Lathan Ransom's problem. That is a problem by Jim Knowles. When you've been playing zone coverage the whole second half, it's slowing the Georgia offense down, and you go to one high man with the game dang near on the line. So you got to be better than that. Jim Knowles has to be better with his situational play calling. Be aggressive. I want an aggressive defensive coordinator. I do. But you still got to make the right call when it's needed.
Yeah, agreed. Two things that you said that I definitely agree with, and we're short on time. So before we get out of here, I do want to say two things. CJ Hicks, I keep saying it to anybody that'll listen. He reminds me of Ryan Shazier. He's just, I think he can be that type of player. That's a lot of weight to put on a kid, but I think he can be that type of linebacker. And then Sonny Styles in that defensive backfield, I think he's going to be an amazing player. And I just sometimes I look at his size at 6'4", 220, 225. I wonder if in the Urban Meyer days, I wonder if there would have been any inkling of Urban Meyer trying to run him down to defensive end, on that other side, I don't know.
I think there's an opportunity if he put on weight.
Yeah.
Or CJ put on a little weight. That if we were going to talk about the Jack.
Both those guys, I think a 6'4", 240, 250 could play that position. But is that where they're best,
Right. I think
I don't know.
Safety.
Yeah. I think it's just finally time that we have, let's stop moving these guys down to defensive end and, forgetting about the back end. Let's Let's have a playmaker, a true playmaker, sideline to sideline. Like I said, like a Ryan Shazier. Let's put C.J. Hicks at that outside linebacker and let him go. Or middle linebacker, whatever. I think he can still make plays on the middle linebacker. But from that position, that's probably where he's going to be, honestly. But, let Sonny Styles roam. Let him play some center field back there. Just, I don't know.
We need to
forward and see what happens.
We need to get the most talented players on the field.
Yeah,
we need to absolutely. On the field.
There's a lot to be said about experience, but there's also a lot to be said about letting the guys, that don't have it, maybe get experience early on.
I'd rather take my bumps against Indiana and stuff because I know we can win those games.
Yes.
And in the playoff and against Michigan, they're at their best by then because they've had a lot of experience playing football. So I'd rather have that happen than us sit back and watch Steel Chambers. Steel Chambers is a good football player.
Sure. He's always around the ball.
His ceiling is a 5th, 6th round pick.
Yeah.
C.J. Hicks is a 1st round guy.
Yes. Yeah. Truly. Yeah.
Josh Proctor or whoever else could start at safety. Ceiling, maybe Kai Stokes is a, ceiling 2nd round, 3rd round guy.
Yeah.
Sonny Styles is a different breed. He's a top 15 pick ceiling guy. So you got to, at some point, you got to bet on ceiling more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. The high floor guys are safe. But like you said, maybe playing it safe, gets you 11-2 and a loss in the first round of the playoffs, which is great.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. But you don't want to lose the 3rd time in a row to Michigan. And you don't want to see them back into the playoffs again, just to, come close, but not quite get it done because, they give up almost 50 points or whatever it is,
Right.
It wasn't a bad game, but you would like to see a little bit more out of the defense. And
no doubt.
Maybe next week we can get into special teams. We run a little bit too long, and who knows who's really going to kick the ball. I mean, Ohio State always comes up with somebody fantastic. You know what I mean? They always have a great punter, great kicker. Long snapper's not a problem. Holder, that's never an issue there. I never really worry about that with them. Haven't worried about it for 15 or 20 years.
No.
So that's a good position to be in. But hey, look, guys, it's been our, like I said, it's our post-Valentine's Day, post-Super Bowl hangover extravaganza. Right. I hope you've hung in, maybe took some Tylenol or Advil, drank some water, whatever it took you to get through this 47 minutes. Thanks so much for being with us today. For Aidan, I'm Chad. We'll see you guys next time.
Later. Go Cavs.
Go Cavs. Get that 3rd seed.